right. Welcome everybody. Let's get started. We've got a full day of program, so I think we should get going. I'm Aron, and this is Tim, and we're going to give you the first session, basic introduction to the Swarm project in general, and also more concretely what the team is doing, what the roadmap is. It's my pleasure to start off by just reminding you what the big vision is for Swarm, where it fits into the ecosystem overall. So, you may remember that when the Ethereum project started, it was not just about the Ethereum blockchain. We had three components. They're called Ethereum, Swarm, and Whisper. Ethereum is the blockchain that we all know. Whisper is a communications protocol allowing two people to anonymously communicate, and Swarm was meant to be the data storage part of this triad. And the Ethereum and Swarm connection was that Swarm would be used, that was part of the original vision, to store the Ethereum state. The Ethereum state that's growing larger and larger, we know that's a problem, syncing full nodes and so on. Well, the idea was this would be the storage layer for the state in the blockchain. And I'm happy to announce, and as Piper's cheers have sort of indicated, there is progress on that front finally, and Piper will be talking at 11 on the progress on storing Ethereum state on Swarm. That's kind of exciting, so that's all I will say about that right now. The other half of this triad is Swarm and Whisper. Now Whisper was developed, but it's not a very efficient protocol because it was aimed at secrecy and anonymity. Swarm itself has a layer of transporting data, and as such we figured it can also be used to transport messages. So Swarm has encompassed a messaging protocol, so Swarm and Whisper together, you can think of the original mission for those, storage and communication, are now part of the Swarm project. And so we like to say Swarm is about storage and communication infrastructure for a sovereign digital society. I'm going to talk very briefly about the storage. Yes, it's about data storage and serving data. Communication, because we can talk peer-to-peer across the network. And the sovereignty. So I'd like to point out that this is really about reclaiming something that's lost on the internet. We as citizens of the internet, as a digital society, have lost sovereignty over the digital commons. Everything that's out on the internet is owned and controlled by third parties. And if Ethereum or cryptocurrencies in general are about getting independence from the banking infrastructure, then Swarm in this context will be about getting independence for the internet itself. That adapt deployed on Swarm will be controlled and owned by the people who use it, and it'll be sovereign in that sense. It's not controlled by third party, and we're not beholden to Google or Cloudflare or any third party to host or control, and we don't rely on them to run our data. So that's why this is really, so we talked a lot about this slogan, we came up with it as a team, so it's important to us, this idea of sovereignty, of reclaiming something that has been lost. So that's Swarm in the large vision. Let's get back down to earth. We need to talk about how we're actually going to go about delivering on this vision. And on that note, I'd like to introduce Tim, who joined our team earlier this year, and he'll take it from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Aron. Chief Beekeeper. It's funny. I have still troubles to describe my role correctly. So I started to join in March 2019, but the story about me being involved with Swarm started last November at Devcon 4, having the great opportunity to have a long evening discussing a lot of topics with Victor, and it was quite impressive and for me impressive conversation, and I got inspired by Swarm. I really got hooked up by the idea that we have the storage layer which needs to be delivered to allow us to have the sovereignty with our applications and to provide an internet of the commons. So very important for Swarm, obviously, and for its success as a platform project are the strategic partnerships. So I'm really pleased that we made progress on that front. And when I say strategic partnerships, I mean really the organizations which put in a lot of money. And it's not doing it total justice, because we have a lot of contributors in the community which are not now named here, but which have done like little contributions, a little bit bigger contributions over some period of times and then drop off again. But those two, the Ethereum Foundation and IOV Labs are at the moment the biggest supporters of Swarm. The Ethereum Foundation had been for a long time. We had along the way again and again support from private donors from the Ethereum community, which allowed us to make progress. Nevertheless, to operate on the scale we need to operate on, comparing that to Ethereum, is very similar. And this project needs similar resources and scale to operate to fulfill its mission. With IOV Labs, we started the track system in Swarm, which means that we have different tracks, delivery tracks, where we focus on different areas of delivery. And IOV Labs is the main sponsor and providing full-time employees and resources for developing, maturing the incentives which are required to have it as a public incentivized network. And I'm excited that we have great progress on this, which will be presented later about a first implementation of Swap. We have the core track, which is really focused on the core stability of the Go client, which is sponsored by the Ethereum Foundation. And we have the Swarm communication track, where we identified some blockers which we need to resolve to move this forward. Where we have multiple strategic partners which have a big interest in using PSS as a follow-up development, as an improved development, which can do way more than what Whisper could do, and which can scale. The goal is to run into a deployment where we have a public testnet which you can try, and we will focus on delivering the Swarm mainnet somewhat 2020, end of 2020, 2021. Obviously the world is moving fast, and so we need to move fast as well. Review 2019. What are the things which mainly happened? We changed the way how we do development. We started to move over to user stories and epics. We started to have different levels of abstractions to allow our partners and our community to better understand what we are doing. We established IOV Labs partnerships. We claimed our own release cycle because Swarm was with the Get theme, and we had the same release cycle with the Get theme. Now we have our own, and it gives us great independence to move forward in the speed we need to move forward with. We established the SWIP process in July, which is the Swarm improvement process. It's like the EIPs, it's pretty much the EIP process put in for Swarm. We started the Ethereum creation process. The goal of this is to make Swarm more competitive, which means that we are not Ethereum internal as a team which is just paid by the foundation, but now we are in a grant negotiation step by step. We deliver milestones and ensure that Swarm is competitive in the ecosystem. Competitive in the sense that we have a high execution speed. And one of the most important changes very recently is the change in the management structure about the lead squad. So, management restructuring. Let's speak about the lead squad. The lead squad is an acronym. Like Swarm is very acronym close to acronyms, you will always find them. And its legal entity is an executive team. And SWOR stands for Swarm Quorum Advisory for Decisions. I think this is the part you need to remember. That is, I think, very important. And the mandate is to mature the management structures to ensure that the organizational structures are given. So we are speaking about the Swarm Foundation, to secure the partnerships and the funding, and to set the environment to deliver Swarm 1.0. Do you like to add something?
To deliver Swarm and to have the structure to develop further after.
Yeah, absolutely, right? To guard the protocol and to move further after the mainnet launch, and to ensure that the ecosystem can grow. Just because of Lead Squad, all those people which are now in the Lead Squad have a background in managing companies, in creating companies. I'm the youngest of this Lead Squad. I'm super excited to rely on those many years of experience from Trigger, who's sitting in the audience here, Victor, and Javier from Epic Labs. So I'm really, really happy and thankful to work along those three people. Regarding the roadmap, I mean, I said we have the tracks. This is kind of how we plan it right now, but you will see that we will have more improvements about how we plan our roadmap in the future as well. And please don't spend too much time here. I will just walk through it. I mean, you see the points what we wanted to deliver is like the pinning, for example, the PSS, academia improvements, improved APIs, all the things. We have with the Ethereum standard Swarm at 11 the update about what we have there. I'm quite excited that we will see the progress here. You see it in the communication part also a great improvement. If you want to have a conversation about it, speak to Luis, he's the right person to speak to. We actually got push sync with this, which means you can synchronize chunks with over PSS in a network. You see also the swips coming up. There's also the posted swips, which is, for example, for ensuring spam protection, which was written by Daniel. I'm also excited we have progress there. But I don't want to go too deep in what we planned, but this is what we delivered. So this means with the 0.5 release, we actually have the first time in the Swarm history all the elements we think are needed to start really to pivot with Swarm. Because you can have basic guarantees with pinning, which means you can host your content on your local node and ensure it's not dropping off, which is necessary to ensure that you can have your static website or whatever you want to ensure that it's not dropping off the network. We have a lot of experimental features which will be matured in the 0.5 release line. And that namely is like push sync, the ability to distribute chunks via PSS, is the progress bar, which means that you can know when you actually successfully uploaded a file. If you want to speak about it, Sahur is around it. Sahur, do you like to show your hand? Thank you. We have the swap, which is the first step in the incentives. There are many people to speak about. It's like Victor, you can speak with Fabio, you can speak with the IOV Labs team like Rinke and Wojtek. Do you like to raise your arm? Wonderful. And the BCC ETH, I'm super excited to hear the presentation later by Piper and me. Forecast 2020, this is a little bit vague at this moment, but you will see that being more concrete over the next month as well. Strategic partnerships strengthening, so Devcon is all about increasing our collaboration and growing new ones. Obviously ensuring that we mature the management structure to ensure that we can execute with all those partners together and focus on stability and developer experience so we get more adoption. 2020, the Swarm spec for having a third-party client implementation, the public incentivized testnet, and the creation of the Swarm Foundation. I think that's all what I have to say at this given point. Thanks for your attention. I will hand over back to Aron. Yes, just to let you know, in the sense, oh, you will. Yes,
I will talk about the workshops.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so back to me. So let me throw up this slide now, so you have it. This is, if you want to talk to us, if you get in touch with us, there's a few new canonical points to contact the team. We're on Twitter at ETH Swarm, and we have the ETH Swarm Reddit, which we're hoping to use more and more as the community grows. And for people who want to get into the development and our day-to-day chat, we host our own Mattermost instance on beehive.ethswarm.org. And as for the domains, well, we have our new domain, and I'm kind of happy about that because wasn't sure we'd get it when the ENS launched short names. But our new homepage, is swarm.eth. So if it was previously the Swarm, that was to get over the 7-character limit. This is now our new homepage. Anyone can access that as long as they have Swarm. If you don't yet have Swarm and you need to use the old boring internet and you only have HTTP or HTTPS, well, swarm.eth isn't going to work for you. You're going to have to add ethereum.org to see our website, but that will also work. That is the same content. So at Devcon 5 today, what do we have? Let me mention, we've got these talks in the morning. That's where we are now. From 11:30 onwards, we'll have 3 workshops in a row. They're about 70 minutes each, an hour and 10 minutes, and then breaks in between to get set up. The first one is about getting started as if you want to develop your apps on Swarm, just very basic, how to do uploads and downloads and manage content, just fundamentals. The next one will be a little more advanced functions, like I guess PSS messages and Swarm feeds and So all the features you might use for if you want to really tweak your Swarm app. And this third workshop is about incentives, which is the one where we actually try within this room to run a fully incentivized Swarm network, that is where all the nodes start paying each other micropayments and sending checks and doing all that stuff. So that's exciting. We tried it with a few people the other day and we tested it sort of worked well. Yeah, it did. I mean, with a few nodes, but we're trying something bigger here. So we're trying to get a whole room wide. So it's a big step. It's a historic step. If you want to be part of that, that's at 2:40. And then at 4 in the afternoon, we have a few more talks about entanglement codes. It's actually really an interesting way of getting redundancy in the data in Swarm. And they've done some great work about mapping these sort of redundancy codes directly onto the Swarm data structures. And Daniel will talk about persistency, how to make sure that data persists and isn't lost. And then at 4:40, we'll have an AMA, a team Ask Me Anything. So everyone from the team who's here at the time will answer your questions in the room or on Reddit at ETHSwarm. So if we really do want feedback from the community, and that's the session, we'll have a whole big discussion with everyone. And now on the schedule it says next is Victor, but he's asked me to switch things around. So we'll actually move Anton and Raphael, I think, agreed to come up next. So they'll talk about large-scale Swarm deployments, and then Victor will come after that. Thanks. Anton and Raphael, please.